new van. Never thought I would say this, but this thing is nice. Never thought I'd like a minivan, ever. But that's pretty sharp. And we can't forget the best one in the driveway, the Jeep. Another week started. Don't see my daughter in the window. Usually she's in the window. Alright guys, how is it going out there? Hope you all had a good weekend. I don't know how many of y'all were on the road or home, but I hope it was pretty good for you. Luckily I was at home. Been home since Friday morning and heading back to the truck as we speak. Alright, well, I just wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about the new, what was that? 2018 Jeep Wrangler JL. I used to believe they're calling it an 18. I'm really not sure what. I think they're talking about it about being able to take orders in January. But as some of you know, don't fall, phone. As some of you know, I'm a big Jeep fanboy. Big one. I've been a Jeep guy ever since I can remember. My dad's had a Jeep ever since, well, he's had a Jeep technically since 1978. When he bought his very first Jeep, the 1978 Jeep CJ5. He bought that with, you know, back then Jeeps came with soft door. I mean, completely soft doors, you know. There was no steel on them whatsoever except maybe the latch mechanism. Everything else was canvas and plastic window. And he had that Jeep. He bought that just 2 days before the blizzard of 78. So good timing on his part. He joined a committee to help get people to the hospital on those days. You know, they were having people with four-wheel drives sign up, you know, to help get doctors and nurses and patients to the hospital. So he joined in on that. But then I was born. He got rid of that Jeep, you know, around the early 80s, and then I was born in 85, and in 86 the all-new, completely new Wrangler was debuted as the 87, which was the YJ, the square headlight that all the CJ purists hated, right? They hated the squares. They hated them. Anyways, my dad went out and bought the CJ, or the YJ. Like I said, bought it brand new. The only option he got with it was a 6-cylinder. It had the full soft top with the half soft doors, and paid $11,000 for it. Brand new Jeep, $11,000. And now today they can cost over 50. But anyway, I know, inflation. But he went ahead, I don't know why I put my signal on. He went ahead and bought that Jeep. I was a year old when he bought it. And he owned that Jeep until I was 26 years old. 26. That means he had that Jeep for 25 years. That Jeep was the family truckster when I was growing up. That, you know, my dad wasn't a big fan of four-doors. So, you know, he never bought a four-door as a family vehicle, and the Jeep was it. That was the family vehicle. So I got to know that Jeep pretty well, and I became a huge fan of the YJ in general. It became a sentimental vehicle to me. You know, just the memories and everything like that. So anyways, that's how I became a Jeep guy. You know, I've had 7 Jeeps. 3 of those have been YJs, which, like I said, is the Jeep that made the, you know, for those of you that aren't Jeep people, the YJ was made from 87 to 95. The TJ was made from 97 to 2006. The JK was made from 2007 to technically present, to right now, but it's almost done. And then the JL is the one that is replacing the JK within a few months. So, you know, when the TJ came out, I wasn't a big fan of it, even though in 2005 I did buy a brand new TJ Rubicon, a brand new 2006 TJ Rubicon. It was nice. I had that for a couple years. And they were at least still more Jeepish, if that's a word, than the JKs that replaced those were. The JKs added, you know, like the TJs were still very bare bone vehicles for even fully loaded, you know, no power windows, no power locks, no, you know, just very, very bare. And the YJ, the thing I like about the YJs, they were not even factory optioned with air conditioning or cruise control or any of that stuff. So, you know, you could get air conditioning on them, but it was a dealership option. The factory never put AC on a YJ. Some people don't know that. Some people see YJs with factory air conditioning, or with, you know, installed air conditioning, and they assume that it was done in the factory. It wasn't. It was a dealer installed option. But I've never seen a YJ with cruise control. I mean, I'm sure you could probably do an aftermarket thing on it, but that wasn't even a dealer optioned accessory that I'm aware of. Skip on forward to the 2018 JL. The JL, obviously, like I said, is replacing the JK. The thing I like about the JL is they're finally bringing back that CJ/YJ feel, but in a much more modern package. The JK was just ass ugly. I mean, the JK, you know, the JK attracted a lot of wannabe Jeepers. You know, it attracted a lot of people, and I'm going to get flack for that one. But it attracted, you know, I'm not saying everybody that drives a JK is a wannabe Jeeper, but they started adding, you know, extreme creature comforts to the Jeep. You know, and by extreme creature comforts, I mean power windows and power locks. And, you know, people started wanting the Wranglers more because they were more comfortable. They became the typical soccer mom mobile. You know, you buy a 4-door with a hardtop, and they were just a H3, you know, with a Jeep badge. Oh boy, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that one. But they were. If you put side by side an H3 and a 4-door hardtop JK, even to the trained eye, at first glance, they look the same. So, you know, it wasn't a very, I just didn't really care for the JK much. I mean, I maybe would have bought one, you know, if I really wanted to, and I'd contemplated buying a 4-door for the family, just to be able to have a newer, more comfortable Jeep along with my YJ, you know, to haul the family around with. Because I'm not as hardcore as my dad. My 26-year-old, well, I can't do math today. My 22-year-old Jeep. Today's 2017, right? Yes, 2017. Wow. 95, 2017, 22 years. My 22-year-old YJ is not exactly up to being the main family truckster, right? Even though one thing I love about it is to carry on the sentimental value to my kids. In my YJ, I do actually have the back seat out of my dad's YJ. Back seat that I made a whole bunch of memories in with my dad. It's now in my Jeep for my kids to make memories with. The thing I like about this JL, they're keeping a lot of the Jeep trademarks in it. They're keeping the folded windshield, which a lot of people were skeptical. They were, You know, and Jeep didn't want to, but the engineer, I can't remember his name, but the chief engineer in design, he was able to, you know, talk them into keeping the folding windshield, which is great. That's, even though nobody will ever probably fold that windshield down, he actually made it easier than a JK or probably even a TJ. I don't know. TJs, I don't know. They weren't that bad. But anyway, he made it pretty simple for such a modern vehicle. And the thing about the older Jeeps is when you folded the windshield down, you had to remove these bars right up above your head, which obviously made it less safe. You know, the roll bars are on these things for a reason. And, you know, so if you had to take off these roll bars to fold the windshield down, then it really sacrificed a lot of safety. Well, the new JL has fixed that problem. They keep the roll cage. The roll cage goes, it almost looks like an aftermarket roll cage, because it goes all the way down the A-pillar and, you know, connects down here. And that way, when you fold the windshield down, there's still the frame sort of the windshield in a way, and it's part of the roll cage, so that's actually pretty good. Something else too about that is, if you look at the front end, it has the same style of grille as the YJ, with that kind of a rake towards the upper end of the grille, and but they also combine that with that of the CJ5 and 7 grille by designing the round headlights to be kind of in a little bit, intruding into the grille slots. So, you know, it has a very CJ-YJ look to it, and I love it. I love that. They're finally bringing back that older Wrangler and CJ look. And then on top of that, when you go into the inside, the dashboard has a metallic finish, and I think it's actually metal. If I remember hearing right from the chief engineer, I think it's actually a metal dashboard. And it's painted. Unfortunately, it's not painted to match your vehicle unless you buy a red Jeep. Then the dashboard matches it. It's still got that metallic feel and look, which is what the CJ was all about. The CJ was basically it was a little bit more than this, but it was basically a firewall with gauges, is what the CJ dash was. You know, I mean, it was obviously more than just that, but basically, you know, it was very, very minimal, with a little strip of padding going just under the windshield. And you know, obviously there's more to the JL, but again, though, it has that look. It has that basic CJ 7 and 5, you know, feel to it. And then, of course, the YJ came along and it integrated a much more, I don't know, modern. It actually implemented an actual dash with the gauges. It was still a very minimal dash, but, you know, they put a dash in there. But, of course, it's got a much more, it looks really good. Even the modern touches to it and the technology that they implemented into this new JL with the it looks like an 8-inch or so navigation screen. It looks really good, and I think they did a great job. It doesn't look cheap, at least not in the pictures. And maybe in person it might seem cheaper, but in the pictures it looks pretty decent. So they have that, and then something else too that I really love, and a lot of the, you know, JK guys that were not Jeep fanboys of the old school CJs, they don't understand this trademark. They think that, you know, a lot of these people probably think that this is a new thing for the JL, right? But it's not. It's been around since the CJs. They put windows. You can get it optioned with windows I think this is only if you get the half doors. But you can get an option with windows down on the lower, like if you're looking at the, well, it's actually right in the center, I guess, scratch that. It's like right in the center of the lower half of the door. It's a glass window. This I assume is glass. It could be plexiglass. I'm not sure. That was actually something that they did with the CJs back in, when was it? Back in, back in the day, back in the 70s, 80s, whatever. So that's awesome. I love that they did that with the new JL. They've also got several engine options. They've got a 2.0 turbo 4-cylinder that they're going to put in. They're going to keep the 3.6 Pentastar for the bigger engine. No V8 option, unfortunately. There's a chance that they're going to bring in the 3-liter turbo diesel, which would be awesome. So there's a plethora of varieties when it comes to the JK was only a V6. There was no 4-cylinder option, no turbo diesel, nothing. And that Jeep even, from 2007 to 2011, it had the 3.8 liter, which was a dog of an engine. There was horrible issues with sludge. The engines, they leaked oil like crazy, even like below 50,000 miles. You hear stories of people going through a quart of oil in a week. It was just unfathomable from an engine that was so new. So they came out with the Pentastar 3.6, and they stuck that in the JK in 2012, which was fantastic because that added, well, the 3.8 only had 200 and I believe it was 208 horsepower, 207, 208, which isn't much for something that heavy, especially if you get the 4-door. So they added the horsepower. They put 285, I believe it is, 286 horsepower in the Pentastar. And that actually made that Jeep, especially if you bought a 2-door, JK with that engine, especially say if you bought a bare bones 2-door with very few options, and the smaller tires and smaller wheels, it would actually hit 60 in under 7 seconds, which is amazing, when you think about it, or something like that. But anyways, that's really all I really have to say about the JL right now. I'm really interested. The only thing I'm worried about is the price point on it, because like I said today, a brand new fully loaded Rubicon can go for over 50, and a base JK is stickering for about 24, which isn't that bad, but that's base, and I got a feeling that numbers are going to jump a few grand under each package. So we'll see. Another change they made with the JL is with the Sahara. The Sahara, you cannot buy a Sahara anymore as a 2-door. You have to buy a 4-door if you want the Sahara package. The Rubicon package, you can buy either or, 4-door, 2-door. I'm pretty sure they're still going to have the Sport. That should be the base model, I suspect. So, they don't have the other models like they do right now yet, but I'm sure they'll add those later. So it'll time will tell. It'll be interesting. I'm really, this is the first Jeep since the TJ that I've actually been kind of excited about. So we'll just have to see what's in store. We just bought we've just bought 2 new vehicles, so it'll be a little while before I actually go out and buy something else. But when I do, I'm definitely going to take into consideration the JL. The JL is like I said, it's a really nice looking Jeep. It's a very good combination of old school and modern, and that's something that the JK just really lacked on. So the JK they didn't even try to bring back anything of the yesteryear Jeeps, or yesterdecade rather. So we'll see how it goes. I bet you it's going to be a pretty good hit. I do. So anyways, guys, with that said, I'm going to get off here and finish driving to my truck so I can start my week. So anyways, y'all have a good one. I'll probably put this on both my channels, on my car channel and on my truck driving channel, because I know a lot of truckers out there are Jeep enthusiasts. So I'm sure they might be interested. So we'll see. All right, guys, y'all have a good one. Later. All right, guys, so here we are in the wife's new Toyota Sienna minivan. I gotta say, this thing has got some power to it, almost 270 horsepower. So we'll see what this thing does. Not bad at all for a minivan. I'm impressed anyway. All right, see y'all later.